Before we move ahead with the talk, I would like to give a brief introduction about Mr. Dharmesh Vaya. Our guest speaker, Mr. Dharmesh, is a Google developer expert for Google Cloud Platform, and he actively manages Google developer community at Mumbai. And he speaks at various conferences, and he mentors number of students, young professionals, and startups and local businesses on cloud technologies and open source. Currently, he's also the director of technology at Agra Technologies. So we are super excited to have you here, and we're looking forward for a great session. Moving forward, if you guys have any query, any doubt, you can put it in the chat box and we'll take it in the end. So over to you, sir.
Sure. Thanks again, Ekta, and thanks DSC IIT Surat for inviting me on this event. It would be a pleasure to talk, and I would just request that if you have any questions, note it down and maybe post it at the end, so that since this is a meet, I might be distracted sometimes by looking at the chat questions. So just a request that any questions posted at the end, I'll try to answer maximum of them. Let me share my screen, and can someone confirm if my screen is up and available? Yeah, is this visible?
Yes, sir.
You can see the slides, right?
Yes, sir.
So with that, let us get started with today's talk. And about is, first of all, we'll talk around general DevOps. What can and what does a DevOps individual do? What do DevOps team look like? What are their challenges that they might face? And also, not only that, we'll also address some of the ways in which you can start diving into DevOps with like kind of minimal efforts. So I'll also touch upon a bit around CI and CD. What does that actually mean? And since this is more like GCP ecosystem, I would also kind of give you a demo what DevOps on GCP, or rather what CI/CD on GCP looks like when we talk of DevOps in general. So that's me, Dharmesh Vaya. Just what Ekta described, my credentials, and the director of technology at Agraya, also a Google developer expert for GCP and payment systems. So with that, let's get started with the agenda. What exactly does DevOps mean? And I'll just go in a bit of a reverse way. Okay, when I say reverse, you all might have heard a lot about DevOps, kind of experience that in terms of tools and technologies, or maybe your way of working and so on. Okay, or maybe in your. So I'll start this in a reverse manner, such that what are the performance parameters of DevOps? I mean, it can be just a set of tasks, but then what are DevOps teams measured upon? Okay, so that will help you set your goals in terms of what DevOps is meant to do and why they are meant to do that in a matter of speed and agility. So that is something which is very crucial for DevOps. Then we kind of look at what does standardized DevOps pipeline look like in terms of the release pipeline, the delivery process, and so on, and some tools and technologies to kind of help you in your DevOps processes. Also, DevOps is often kind of tied to the cultural paradigms in a given organization. And that is where I would also briefly touch upon those cultural aspects as well, that how they actually shape your DevOps culture in your organization. So if I just quoted from some, I was just attending a recent international organization, and they say that it's not DevOps, it's actually operations that you need to understand. So that is why the culture factor is the kind of basis these days when you talk of DevOps. So with that, let us get started. And what exactly do you need to deliver. So you have written your application, you have written your code. Now you need to kind of deliver that. And what is the way to deliver that? To deploy. And of course, since we kind of all have Yoda, and so it's just said in a reverse way that to deploy, deliver you must, and to deliver you must also deploy. And where to do that is something that we'll see in this session. I'll quickly explain where does DevOps fit into your business pipeline or your way in which a product is developed. About a concept, the concept of a product, okay? Then you try to say, for example, you develop a small MVP out of it, and then you derive a business model out of it. To start your entire feature development cycle, okay? And then let's assume that this is more of an agile process that is being followed. So from the business model, development pipeline, and from here, you operations. So as soon as a feature is ready and it is shipped, okay, so when it goes to the customer, it often happens that the customer is now not requesting you new features, but it is wanting you to kind of solve some tickets, solve some problems that a consumer might be facing. Let's say, assume a use case of an e-commerce product, okay? So there will be operational problems, there would be glitches in the product, there would be bugs, and so on. So all this, when it comes to development related issues and bugs, okay, there is something called as operations or support related to development. This phase of kind of handing over from the development team to the operations, okay, is technically termed as DevOps in general. There's a lot of internal process that happens over here, wherein like how it is kind of handed over, what are the phases of handover, or what are the tools and technologies that are used in terms of handing this over. And of course, after that, like even after DevOps or during DevOps, it can then go to the market, and then again it goes to the same cycle of operations and development, since there will be an iterative process with application development. As I mentioned earlier, we are talking about in terms of in which a DevOps process or DevOps is actually measured. Now, it's kind of a very tricky question to answer, and I would say there is only one answer to that, and that is it depends. Did I say that it depends? Is the fact that would have a different set of process. Every product would have different type of problems to be solved. Organization has a different culture fit. So that is why I say that in terms of measuring DevOps, what is expected out of it, it really says that it depends. Let me kind of give you another example. A website. Let's say you're hosting your blog. Okay. What is the goal of this website? To kind of share information, to maintain that information is always up and available. The key is not about performance. Here, the key is that it should be always available and readable for your audience, for your subscribers. So again, the DevOps issue over here is maintenance of that website. Out its performance, that of course, like if 1,000 users hit, your website should still be readable, available, and so on. Okay, but also that its core functionality should not break. Second, if it is an e-commerce product, okay, now you're talking not just the way in which the transactions happen, but also the spikes that can occur, or if there are any new features that are coming in, that should be readily consumers. So the speed and agility with which can handle its customers is also important over here. So that is why I say that measuring DevOps It depends on your product, your business, your organization culture. Variable factors would actually count into how your DevOps processes are shaped. So what are these factors that we can control, okay, and we can kind of measure DevOps with, okay? So the two major factors I mean kind of split into is the speed factor and the scalability factor. Kind of break this down into speed, it is internal factors, which is the deployment frequency, how fast you are deploying, okay, and the lead time for changes. How much time do you need to kind of fulfill a change request or kind of fix a bug and so on. These are like pretty standard baseline benchmark established for like any application, any software product that is used, and which I'm talking about on the right hand side is the scalability factor, wherein let's say a website goes down, what is the time to restore it back into its normalcy, and what is the failure rate? So in a year, how many times a website is going down? We'll have kind of read through different cloud or network related blogs or any I would say white papers and so on. You would have read about like 5 nines or the 99.99% up and availability and so on. Now that is generally the resiliency that is expected. So in a year, a website can go down for once or twice, which is like kind of manageable and expected. So if you just do a 1 over 365 or 2 over 365, you will get how many nines are coming over there. The level of resiliency, the operational efficiency that any system should be kind of designed for, and DevOps would eventually be the baseline to kind of run that, to kind of manage that and so on. So that is why these major factors which are in your control, okay, is something that should to measure the performance of DevOps. So okay, that you know what is expected out of DevOps. So now let's go to the next level of by making it more and more improvised. That we should be talking about is the availability factor. The most major thing that can kind of cause any product to fail. Okay, it can be a product, application, website. So when I say product, it is like application, website, anything that is being served to the consumer. Here the availability factor becomes very crucial. Let's say you're watching IPL on Hotstar and let's say their servers goes down. Will that be then useful for you? No. Product or your service is no longer available to your consumers, which is going to cause a bad reputation, a brand loss, and so on. It's directly related to the performance of your application. Also, in terms of DevOps, okay, it also reflects the team culture. So that is why I've mentioned again, I'm emphasizing on culture, is because how fast do you learn to adapt from these failures and how do you improve your goals? So say for example, this season IPL, okay, you had like downtimes of 2 or 3 times in different matches throughout the season, okay. Next year, you ensure that you only get once or maybe not even once, okay. How do you kind of learn from these failures? What is root cause analysis that you do? What is the kind of remediation that you do, not only in your code, but in your infrastructure, is the most closest performance factor when it comes to availability. Availability becomes the crucial point in terms of measuring DevOps. And also, now what are the factors of availability? I almost like told the factors with the Hotstar and the IPL example, but yeah, if I had to kind of put that across formally, okay, and in terms of measurable factors, the first one is of course the service level expected by users. the services are unavailable, there's a downtime, it's again a bad loss. To you or your customers' revenue. What if, yes, you have, say for example, let's keep the Hotstar example alive, okay? And what if, say for example, this paid subscription is a revenue model for you. So you are having paid customers who can access the IPL matches, and if they are facing a downtime, will they be paying you again? Next year, you're not going to get that much revenue. So again, that becomes a crucial factor, whether this service affects your revenue directly or indirectly. Service for your customers. Say, for example, a payment is failing on your system. Okay, how fast is your system able to recover from that or reverse the payment and so on? Okay, whether that getting the right service, whether if a customer, say for example, calls to your chatbot or your customer care number and says that, okay, this is the issue which I'm facing. How can I get it reversed? How fast is your service in that case? Again, this does fall into a sort of a DevOps, the plain reason being that your systems are eventually responsible back to normalcy. I said earlier, whether it is a paid or a free service, what our competitors provide. Okay, let's say there is Hotstar. What if tomorrow, like Amazon Prime starts, serving IPL matches? What about the availability factor over there? What if they have a superior infrastructure, their processes, and so on? The cost to availability, the cost for maintaining this availability, you have to be cognizant that you cannot just keep on piling up servers after servers with an additional RAM just to kind of maintain an availability. It cannot just go beyond business model and your revenue models. Okay, you can't have an income from revenue of say $10,000 and you have a server of say $100,000. You will be into losses. So that is where like cost and efficiency and cost optimization is something that you should be kind of looking at. Now, all this said and done. So I talked about processes. I talked about how your cultural fit would actually matter. But then, how do you actually build a robust delivery pipeline? It all actually says that again, it depends. It depends on your product, application, service, your business model, and your team culture, and the type of technologies that you're using. So that is why I say that DevOps, it really is no one size fit all, vary from team to team, vary from application to application, and so on. Even within an organization, the same DevOps processes might not work for all the teams. It would here and there. So I always say that DevOps is like the fingerprint of your application. I mean, it is unique to your application. It is unique to how you work with your application. This work in terms of building a robust delivery pipeline. So one thing, of course, like if I kind of say from an industry perspective, you just have to understand that how the industry is progressing in these areas. You need to identify the gaps and reflect, improvise, and kind of resonate it into your product. Just from an example of the numbers which I have kind of shown here, from like 2018, there were like 7% elite DevOps team. So when I say elite DevOps team, it's at the scale of like Google or Amazon and so on. 19, some old numbers, but yeah, they still hold true. DevOps team were almost like 20%, from like 7 to 20, or if you say the high performers actually reached into the elite phase. Now, how did they do that? That is, they did that by adopting technologies. They did that by understanding their gaps in the DevOps processes, improvised it. And once they improvise, there is actually no going back. It's like, an atomic habit. you generally don't tend to lose that habit. And then likewise, DevOps, that is why it's a cultural habit, which once you kind of get into, that will become your way of working, that will become your way of operations and so on. So that is why I say that more you kind of retrospect and understand and apply it to improvise your DevOps processes, it's definitely going to be a booster for you all. How exactly does that get done when you talk of the process gaps? Okay, we are tech folks, so we don't want to get into some management processes or management philosophies that okay, let's do a whole cultural shift and this and that and all that. Let's focus or keep the paradigm only up till technology. And for DevOps, there is just one baseline. You use tools, whether it is in-house or proprietary tools, to kind of build a very robust delivery pipeline. And these tools are not just related to tech, which is not just like your GitHub build processes or your deployment processes. It can also be, so DevOps is not just CI and CD. Okay, DevOps is world around it, which talks about release management, the way your features are designed, your features are kind of incorporated into the release and so on. So you might want to have like use something like Jira, Asana, something of those sorts, okay, to kind of processes. Now, how do you actually build a delivery pipeline? I would say M, E, and A. So this is more of like you can say mantra or a acronym that you can use. Okay, MEA, better your environments and automate it. Okay, your delivery pipeline is more and more robust. Okay, remember that even like if you're going for some interviews and someone asks you like what is the most robust way to build a DevOps process, so MEA is the technical answer for that. So you can just remember that by Ministry of External Affairs, just a way to remember it. The more you monitor, the more you get your data of your CPU health, of your memory, of your servers, and so on. About environments, what does DevOps actually mean for you? It is about maintaining your environment's health, maintaining your environment's scalability, and all this in an automated manner. You don't want to go every morning and just fire some command saying that, okay, how much is my CPU utilization? Oh, I forgot my command today. Let me kind of look into the cheat sheet and find it. No, that's not what you want to do. You want to automate all these processes, what's done, and ensure that your pipelines are always readily available for you. Every morning you just click one link and you see your dashboards, health status, your vitals of your environment and applications, and such that if a build has happened in the night, the environments and the applications are stable or not is something that your dashboard should kind of show. So that is where automation is the when it comes to usage of these DevOps tools. So monitor your environments and automate as much as possible. So now I said that, okay, there is a lot of things which can go in terms of like, we talked about some standardized ways of, and so I was talking about the speed factor, the scalability factor, and these are variables that we can control, right? So what DevOps actually function upon? So it basically release management is that glue which actually holds your environments together. Your release management, the stable are your environments. Okay, a very prominent fact that everyone in the industry tries to do CI. So when I say everyone, it's majority of if you see this numbers out here, it is this medium or the low performers out here. When they want to reach into the high performers or low performers into the medium ones, okay, if they want to jump one level, okay, they are going from CI to CD. These all might be performing just CI, okay, but they're not doing CD in the right fashion. So that is why CD becomes very important, where CI is continuous integration. You have integrated your build processes, but your deployment is not happening, but your testing is not happening, your automated tests are not functioning, there is no environment, there is no dashboard, and so on. So that is why CD is actually very crucial when it comes to your DevOps processes. After all, it's I would say the baseline over here again is the technology aspects. To use your tools, your technologies in the right manner, your processes are all in place. Now, can we still have a standardized release practices? And yes, so since this is all code that we are talking about, it's factors which we have in control. Okay, what does CI and CD consist of? So you plan like what features you want, you code it, okay, and then you build it. Okay, these over here till the code and the build, and partially also into test. Okay, the test is going to be like a gatekeeper, I would say. So if the test is successful, it goes into the release pipeline, which is delivery part. Okay, and if your code is getting pushed and built automatically, it is the CI piece, which is the continuous integration. So again, remember that the test is your gatekeeper, and it should be actually given some weightage over there, that whether your tests are automated or someone is kind of manually pulling from one environment to the other, then I would not say it's a complete CI/CD. There is a manual process involved. And then like in CD, the release process and the deployment process, then it's all into the operational aspects. What does CI/CD on GCP look like? So enough of the like the theory aspects. Okay, I talked a lot about DevOps, culture, and so on. Okay, yeah, still might be having one more slide around culture, but yeah, let's talk a bit around technology and not make you bored. How does it look on GCP? So this is a very standard, I would say CI/CD process on GCP, or rather it can work on like the process is pretty common for any cloud. Like multiple developers, they commit their changes any source code, whether it is GitHub, whether it is Bitbucket or cloud source repos. Now, from here, a build is triggered. A build triggered, okay. The moment a developer pushes a change, okay, gets updated over here, and there are triggers which are actually watching the source code. Okay, that if let's watch if the code is getting changed. Did it change? Did it change? Did it change? As soon as it changed, okay, the build started happening. So when I say build, okay, it can be packaging, it can be containerization, anything. Okay, so that build starts, and if a test fails, it gives a feedback back to the developer saying that okay, your test has failed. Please try to look into that and kind of fix the code and redeploy it. So if the build passes, okay, and say for example, you still have some security processes in place, whether you want to run some security scans around it, and let's assume that this is a containerized flow, okay, and the build the build or the container into the GCR, which is the container registry. And so that is basically called your artifacts for your build process, and your artifacts are then managed over there. Or the latest container image is then deployed onto your environment. It can be a VM, it can be a serverless environment, okay, and that is where the CI/CD is happening. So just imagine that over this piece where I'm kind of hovering my mouse from source to build and test, I piece, okay, or rather even the developer is actually included. To here, it's actually the CD piece. Why? Because here the deployment is also happening onto your release environments. That if I say that this is the baseline of your DevOps process, almost completely automated, life becomes very simple. So if this is your baseline to DevOps, okay, and now you just have to, what do you have to do? Maintain your environments, monitor it. The automation part is done, okay. And to do the monitoring and the environment health check, Google readily provides you stack driver monitoring, alerting, and so on. So you can just set some thresholds over there. You can get alerts whenever there is a breach or there is a threshold breach and so on. One more like way of representing this is specifically for serverless, wherein the same fundamental flow, the developer pushes the code, whether it is GitHub or anything. A build is triggered using cloud build. Okay, the build is successful. It goes to the container registry, and from here, you know, the build is successful, and it goes ahead and deploys it onto Cloud Run. So what exactly is Cloud Run? Small demo for this. And so Cloud Run is basically, if you all have used something like App Engine in the past, okay, basically a container, you can say as a service that is available, and you do not have to worry about the internal mechanisms of how this container is going to be built, how it's going to be deployed, and so on. You have to just write your code, push it to GitHub, build, and it will take care of the deployment. We'll see that with an example. You are not worried about the environments, the scalability factor, and so on. If flow for website or something like your blog or something, it's very simple to kind of manage it with the minimal amount of configurations. So then we will go to the demo shortly, but yeah, while everyone like kind of wants to be on the cloud, okay, but the fundamental aspect over here is that you should first be cloud ready. Okay, when I say cloud ready, is that your applications, irrespective if they are sitting on cloud or your local or something like an on-premise environment, it should be kind of made cloud ready. So when I say cloud ready, they should be containerized, they should be automated deployment as much as possible, automated tests to kind of do the gatekeeping and so on. So all these factors make your DevOps process, when you move into the cloud, they would be very easy to handle. And there is just one solution to that, which is like you choose ecosystem. And there are a lot of tools available. It really, again, I would say, depend on your visit. Okay, so the baseline is, of course, you use as much as Kubernetes is not really the answer to DevOps, okay, but yeah, it is one of the important factors to kind of areas is kind of heavily into. About how you manage your architecture, your data, and security. I'll leave this or rather in depth into this slide for now. A bit on the heavier side for you to understand more from the architecture or the security side of things. But yeah, aspects of DevOps. In terms of some tools that you should be kind of looking at, Scaffold, Istio, and Spinnaker. Like the tools which I'm mentioning, these are, I would say, industry standards. And say 1 year, 2 year down the line, if you all are kind of opting for some kind of a role into DevOps, into cloud engineering, and so on, these are going to be the baseline that is expected from any DevOps engineer. And where are they used? They are used at multiple layers. So I would say if like Istio or Spinnaker I'm talking about, they are used heavily at the microservices layers and on the service mesh side of things. Scaffold, Kubernetes, again, in terms of maintaining, orchestrating of Kubernetes or orchestrating of containers, and which will actually help you build up your or speed up your entire build processes. So these are some of the baseline tools which are heavily used. There's one more to the list if you want to add. There is Terraform, which will help you manage your environments also. So this was more at the application layer. Terraform will help you more at the infrastructure layer. So yeah, the slides keep on reminding me that didn't you mention culture somewhere? So yes, of course, like culture again is I won't I don't want to bore you by the cultural talk, but yeah, it's all about the end of life of a product. Okay, so what do I say? So employee is kind of responsible to drive the culture. If you as an employee do not kind of inculcate the best practices, if you do not follow the standardized processes, you will be responsible to kind of deviate from the culture. It's equally a part of the organizational values, okay, to drive this culture, to help an employee drive this culture. And above all, it's all about learning. The more you learn about new tools, new processes, and you want to kind of inculcate that. So if the organization gives you that learning opportunities, grab that, learn that, and implement that. So the three factors which actually, are the basis of any DevOps in terms of the cultural aspects is you as an employee, the organization, and the level of learning that you get in that organization. So with that, like I did kind of almost cover that slide wherein employees, if they get the kind of level of tools that they want to decide, the work is meaningful for them in terms of the processes, and organizations, if you can't work too much into an organization which is too much bureaucratic in nature, and they do not kind of give you too much leverage in terms of the processes. Yeah, it can happen that their processes are far matured enough that they tend to become bureaucratic, but then their processes are matured to that level. Then the organizations can be still stable. And of course, as I mentioned, learning, uh, you know in the culture about learning and allowing to learn, okay, it actually reduces failure rate by a very strong levels. So what are the highlights of what we discussed so far? So if you want to be in the most elitist team of DevOps, okay, it's just one factor that you should be worried about, and it's about continuous improvement. So we do talk about CI and CD, but there is one CI that we should be worried about is the continuous improvement that we should look at in terms of our processes, in terms of our tech areas, and anywhere that you see a gap, okay, it can actually be solved by technology as a solution. First, like I would say that cloud as an enabler, as a platform, a lot of leverage, gives you a lot of options when you talk of automation, when you talk of monitoring and so on. So adopt that, make use of that, and try to understand what is being improvised over there, or how things are actually solving or helping you solve the problems. Let us get into a quick demo. I did cover a lot around DevOps, the base concepts, industry standards, some cultural aspects. So let's look at GCP as the one. So let me share this tab now. Okay. Now, if you see, this is my like GitHub page. Okay, and you know, okay. So what I will do is I'll again also share this tab now. Okay. So I'm just switching tabs to kind of help you understand what exactly I'm trying to do. Okay. So what I'm going to do is the repo which I was trying to show you. Okay, it just contains a very simple index.js file, and it will contain some sentence or some code, okay, which says that this is just a test, and I'm trying to deploy it using Cloud Run. Now on Cloud Run, what I'm going to do is, okay, I'll be creating or hooking that repo, okay, such that it gets automatically deployed over here. Now I had created some samples or hooks already available. Okay, so I'll just quickly kind of show you how this is actually working. So let me kind of show it on cloud build. Okay, So if I show cloud build out here, yeah. Okay, so yeah, just ignore the several of these. Okay. So what do I have to do is I just have to create a trigger on cloud build. Say for example, this is hello world. Okay. Yeah. So if anything is pushed to a branch, okay, to link my repo over here. So for example, this is my GitHub repo, which I was kind of referring to. If I link this and which branch, I would say any branch or rather the master branch, I would say I need it to be auto detected whether build file is present or a Docker file is present. So I have a Docker file already present into that repo, which will kind of take care of the deployment. Where do I want it to be deployed? Of course, like what is the location of this file? It is within the build. Create this. I already have one and don't want to duplicate that. So I go back to my cloud run. Okay. You see that this deployment is already existing. Now, when it was kind of hooked up or created, okay, I'll show you that how does it exactly look, and I will share this tab. Okay, so this is the application which is running. Okay, it just shows my repo name, the URL, like for an about me URL. And this is just a description which I have kind of set up. So it is built with Cloud Run demo for GitHub virtual meetup. And let me kind of change the index file and show you. So I go to this tab. So I'm changing a live code on GitHub. I'll push the code and you will see that it is automatically being deployed without me having to do anything into the environment. So let me kind of run this. Okay, let me edit it from here itself. I'm not going into my VS Code or something. Okay, this is a demo for DSC IIIT Surat. Okay, and I would say let me put the already been printed, but yeah, let's okay, and I commit this. So as soon as a commit starts, okay, you will see that here the orange indicator goes on, which means that a build is actually in progress. Go back onto this tab, okay, you will see that a trigger is actually being triggered out here. Okay, so I need to go to cloud build. This one is actually now running. Okay, why it is running? Because I pushed the code from GitHub. Okay, and a build is actually being triggered over here, and it takes hardly a few seconds or sometimes a minute to kind of get it deployed to the latest revision. And if I go to my application link, let me share that tab. Let me refresh this. Yeah, it's still not kind of ready. Yeah, you see that it is now deployed, built with Cloud Run, demo for DSC IIT Surat. Thanks for attending. 11th April. Okay, so you see that how in just a matter of seconds, okay, as soon as I pushed a code, okay, a container instance was created here. Okay, the build was successful. Okay, and it got deployed onto this environment out here, which is my application URL. Now this URL, I mean, the application can be anything as simple as this demo. It can be as complicated as an e-commerce site as well. And you would see that within a matter of seconds or within a matter of minutes, your application is up and running, serving to your consumers or serving to your clients. So that is like a very short, quick demo, and it's like easy to use for anyone. And that's where like you can understand how CI and CD. If your pipeline is kind of robust and quite seamless and automated, life becomes very simpler. Now, there is like, DevOps is a very vast area to kind of look at, and the most advanced things around DevOps you can kind of evolves into or the site reliability engineering. And this is something I would recommend for you all to kind of read or understand paradigm better, and the whole SRE landscape better. So maybe if you all want, you can take a pick, and these books are kind of freely available on this link, landing.google.com/SRE/books. So go ahead and read them, and this is a whole Bible that you can link to and read through around DevOps. For inviting me, DSC IIT Surat, and I'm always like kind of reachable either on LinkedIn or Twitter. LinkedIn name is like Dharmesh Vaya, Twitter is DRVAYA. Yeah, thanks again for inviting. I'm happy to answer any questions that might have come. So let me kind of stop sharing my screen, switch back to Meet. Yeah. Please do shoot them. No questions. Was it for any?
Okay, I guess they get the session very well.
Sure. Okay, so I see one question. Nazi Bora is asking, like, how to run GitHub Actions in multiple subfolders. Okay, so do you mean to say, when you say multiple subfolders, are you talking of multiple repos? Maybe Nazi can switch on the mic, and it can be an interactive discussion as well.
So hi, I'm Nazi.
Right? Yeah.
So I am mentioning like in my repository, I have two folders. One is for front end and one is for back end. So
Correct.
I want to run multiple tests for both the subfolders. So how can I do that?
Okay, so first of all, you'll need to understand that the test that you want to run, okay, they are like, see, first of all, front end and back end are two different applications, although they might be stored in or hosted in your single repo, okay. But the test that you want to run, you need to hook it up in a manner that it would align to different master folders. So your front end would be different and your back end would be different. In which your tests are written or your build is integrated, it would differ, and your way in which it is deployed. See the container. I mean, if you are using a container,
Okay.
To build that container, okay, you would be linking the backend code separately and the front end code separately. It won't be together. I don't think they'll be happening together. So that is why both will be linked to different GitHub Actions or different repos, and then you kind of run the test over there.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Zed is asking, can you talk something about deployment? Okay. What do you want me to talk about? Okay. Okay. See, Zed, I think like deployment is more about the way in which your code or your application is deployed onto an infrastructure, or rather served from an infrastructure. So a code base, okay, which is running on your local, okay. Now you want to actually move that to a server, which is, why is it called a server? Okay, first of all, okay, it is, I'm just telling the literal way of saying it, okay. It is meant to serve your application. It is serving your application, okay. So from your local, it has to be deployed to a place which can serve that application. And to move that, okay, from your local or any of your dev environments to that server, that process is generally like termed as deployment. Now, deployment again can be in different shapes and ways, okay, wherein the deployment can be automated, it can be manual, it can be from one server to the other, it can be a replica between the servers and so on. So deployment as such is mainly making your application available to consumers or servable to consumers. Or do you want something more around, or do you want question? Because it's a very generic question that you asked, that's why. No answer? Okay. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else, guys? Okay. Well, I guess we don't have any more questions. So we can wrap up the session. Thank you so much, sir, for being here. This was really, really amazing session. Thank you everyone for attending.
And thanks again, Ekta and the team at DSC Surat. It was a pleasure, talking at the session. I'm reachable on Twitter or LinkedIn. I posted my credentials on the chat. So feel free to connect, and if you all have any questions or if you need any help, always a call away. Thank you again, and have a nice evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye. Take care.